in the race for Best Comedy Series, it looks like 30 Rock is a rock to win, doesn't it? It has never lost, first of all. It has won 2 out of 2. It's a show about TV, and the voters of the Emmys, of course, are people in the TV industry. This is a show that really hits home with them. Do you guys think there is anything that could beat this? Chris, you start.
The Office has The Office has a shot at beating it here. The Office won the first time it was nominated for Comedy Series back a couple of years ago. I think The Office had just as good a season as 30 Rock overall. The problem was when they actually submitted their episodes, I think 30 Rock nailed it again. Whoever's choosing those episodes for them, whether it's Tina Fey or somebody else on their staff, they do an amazing job of that. The Office chose pretty well, but there was 1 or 2 that I thought they kind of messed up on. I think they would they needed to be perfect in order to take down 30 Rock, and I just don't think they did the job.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chris. But also, I just think just the way the people who are voting for this, I can't imagine them not at this stage voting for 30 Rock. I think 30 Rock's got a couple more years in it. In terms of it'll just keep winning until it kind of completely falls off the radar because it's such an industry show, Tom. And I mean, this is something that you've said before. It's just about them, and they like to watch and vote for things that are about them, that they can understand and relate to. And plus, it's also extremely funny and witty and very well written. And so I just can't imagine it losing in any universe at all.
I know, and just a couple of years ago.
It doesn't matter what episodes I pick.
And just a couple of years ago, we saw Frasier win 5 times in a row, right? But Rob, this year we have 7 nominees instead of 5. That adds a different mathematical formula. You know, theoretically, a show can win with fewer votes. Any other possibilities here? The other nominees are Entourage, Family Guy, How I Met Your Mother, Flight of the Conchords, Boo, and Weeds. I always got to get a dig against Conchords in there. I hate it so much. Hey, I'm the landlord here. This is my video chat. All right, so what do you think, Rob?
Look, I'll tell you what. These categories don't have the same preferential voting system, I think, that the Best Picture in the Oscars now has. So you really can get a very small percentage to get yourself over the line. And that's a very good point, which means if you have a show with a really diehard fan base that might have just enough of a group of voters to get you over the line, then you will surprise. And that's why we've probably had surprises in the past when there's been more than 5 nominees. And so a show like Family Guy, it'll cause earthquakes, but if it does it, it will be because there is a group of people who just think it's the funniest thing ever and maybe just don't want to vote for the favourite because it will probably win. And, in that kind of scenario, of course you're going to see a surprise. And I think Family Guy would be one of the ones to do it because it does have a really, really strong fan base, unlike some of the other shows, maybe like Entourage, that people respect and like and think it's really good and nominate it, but have never really been that interested in actually giving it the trophy.
So let me pick up on this idea also, because I think what we all know as experts who follow this is that one of the most important theories when you're guessing what's going to win an award is the apples and oranges, and that if there is an orange in the basket of apples, it can win. And Family Guy is that, of course. Yeah. And it's so unusual, so different from all these other nominees that only one time in the past has ever an animated show ever been nominated for Best Comedy. And, of course, that was the Flintstones. And this is where you put your anarchist vote. If you're a Hollywood discontent, and they all are, every voter's, Family Guy is so naughty, irreverent, over the top. This is where you go, right, Chris? Or no? Do you think something else has a shot?
No. You and I were talking the other. You and I were talking the other day. A lot of these voters on these panels are women. I can't imagine they would go for Family Guy. I can't imagine they would go for Flight of the Conchords either. They're such male-centric shows. 30 Rock just fits them perfectly. It's led by a woman who's both the writer and the producer and the star of the show. It's just too tailor-made for this Emmy system right now.
But Chris, when I told you that almost all of the Emmy voters I've ever encountered in person are women, I was referring to the actors branch. I was referring referring to those other categories. Now remember, series is different. You have between 200 and 300 voters there. That's where we know they're often not even watching these episodes. There are a lot of men who vote, but I think this is where the guys say, okay, I can only judge a couple categories. I'll do best series, comedy, or drama. You know they're not watching these episodes. I think this is where the male vote can prevail.
No.
Well, let me bring up one other thing. You love trends. You talk about trends when you're doing your Oscar picks, your Emmy picks, and so forth. And I pointed this out 2 or 3 weeks ago. But in 40 years, there's only been one show to win this category without a directing or a writing nomination, and that was Friends, in a year where everybody knew that Friends was going to win that year. It was probably their best year overall. So in 40 years, that's a pretty heavy trend. If you were betting a few dollars on this, I know you wouldn't go away from that trend.
No. I would vote against that trend if the race was the same. If you had 5 nominees chosen by the same voting process. The Emmys have changed this voting process all over the place. We're with 7 instead of 5. What do you think, Rob?
Look, I think it's the 7 nominees that does add that extra dimension. Although I think what we're really talking about here is what show could possibly upset 30 Rock. Like, it's not about, 30 Rock has these things going against it, which maybe means it may not win. We all pretty much recognise that it is the front runner. It's way ahead, but we have 7 nominees. It's not going to be hard for you to get just that amount of percentage of votes to get you over the line. Plus, we have the popular vote. We don't have panels watching it anymore. Plus, we have probably a lot of men voting. I don't know what kind of demographics we have here, but they're probably mostly white and middle-aged and generally industry people. And people think that Family Guy's really funny. And Family Guy, by the way, has done a really good job over the last few weeks with those YouTube videos. They've been hilarious, and they've actually been virally making their way around Hollywood and probably just around all voters' laptops and iPhones. And so it's definitely put itself out there as a vote to say, look, let's just do something different. Because, Tom, you wrote an article, I think, yesterday saying that the Emmys always get criticised for picking the same things, and maybe, some of the voters are sick of that as well. Maybe they do want to vote for something that's going to be completely different that'll make headlines. I mean, that would be fantastic if that happened. It'd be great.
Yeah. I think in the apples and oranges, something different trend, too, here. I think Weeds. If there was some really left field thing, Weeds. I don't think Entourage has a prayer. Unfortunately, I don't think How I Met Your Mother has a prayer. I hope Conchords has no prayer at all. I would like to see Office win, but I don't buy Chris's theory. I just think it's no longer cool. I think whatever. I'm not sure they're even watching it. But Weeds, I think, if just knowing these guys, because remember they're in their 40s and 50s, and marijuana is something that was cool and rebellious when they were young. There's a nostalgia factor there, and we know that substance abuse has a huge appeal to them in general. Mm-hmm. But Chris, I will give you the final word. What do you want to win? You want The Office to win, don't you? Just admit it right here.
I would love The Office to win. It's been a while since it won. I think, like I said before, it had just as good a season as 30 Rock. 30 Rock was kind of rocky this year. It had good stretches, and it had some of its best episodes ever, but there were some weeks where it wasn't up to the same quality as it was other weeks. But the same could be said for The Office. The same could be just about said for any show in this comedy category especially. But I think 30 Rock's got it. I just can't imagine it not winning here. I think a lot of the program races this year, drama series, comedy series, variety, TV, movie, they're so kind of locked in stone. It's really the performer races where I think there's going to be some interesting situations popping up there.